So next, Heather, I was going to talk about table centres, or because they could even be like coffee table centres.
This looks amazing.
Well, I'm calling this a citrus centerpiece, if you like. Of course, these are not citrus; these are solanum.
Yeah.
The Christmas cherry, which are great for autumn display as well as Christmas. I think there's still quite a lot grown in this country, actually, but they're pretty inexpensive. You can buy them at supermarkets and that at sort of a £1.50, £2 each a plant. These are quite small, and I think there's about 5 plants in that particular one, which are all just put into a bowl, which looks like this. So it's just a plastic bowl, which is dropped into the centre of this glass tank. And in a way, I guess the main messaging here is about using glass tanks is a really great way of, in effect, creating different containers. And I think the container is as important as what you're putting in it, if you can make it work hard enough. So this is a square tank. I've put a plastic bowl in the centre of it, and then around the edges of the tank I've put slices of lime and orange, which are air dried, and then you'll see that there are these citrus which have, they almost look like lanterns, but they're also dried. Someone cuts them with a Stanley knife or a craft knife, and then they're dried. Now these I bought, you can buy them, they probably work out about 50p each. But if you have the time and the patience, you can make your own by carefully slashing the sides, not all the way through, it's only the skin, and then put them in an airing cupboard or somewhere where there is a gentle source of background heat. Not a full-on oven, because you're then just going to cook them. What you're actually doing is dehydrating them. Put them on a tray, and they could take a week or more to dry. In an airing cupboard they might take a couple of weeks, but they will dry. And Alga is great in the low oven or the little tiny or the cooler oven. You can put them in there. If you don't have an Alga, just go out and buy one, you know. And then the slices are literally that. They're slices of the citrus. I guess they're probably 3 or 4 millimetres thick, and if they're laid onto a baking rack, they will also dry out and become desiccated. Like that, they obviously don't go mouldy, and if you store them properly in an airtight container, they will last from year to year. But if you can't be bothered doing all that, then just go out and buy them. I've wired some of the slices together here using the stub wires again, and those are just tucked into the sort of the background of the container, because again it's about all the sort of textures that intrigue me, and the fact that you have some of the same material that's both inside and then sort of emerging, coming out of the design, makes it feel more lush and more you know, more immersive, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. You can add some, you know, fresh fruit if you like, which I think adds another texture to it, because obviously the fresh fruit is more brightly coloured. It's reflecting light in a different way, but it makes a nice relationship with the solanums in the pot there. So add a few of them, and that again, I've just used some of the stub wires passed through. Another thing that you could use perhaps in something like this would be pomegranates. You know, pomegranates last quite a while, and as long as you don't mash them up too much by poking things into them, they will bleed, and the sap is quite strong, so make sure you don't get it on a surface where it could stain it. But pomegranates are quite a nice thing to use as well. And if it's just for a dinner or an event, I love the idea of pomegranates just being broken open so that you can see the fruit inside, because they look like rubies or something.
So jewel-like.
They are so jewel-like, and you know, pomegranates have been featured in you know, neoclassical illustrations and things, these associations with fertility and exoticism and all of these things. So, and pomegranates are inexpensive. I mean, you can buy a pomegranate for about 50p, and yet it's a big lump of colour. So you know, I always think that fruit is incredibly good value for money. This whole punnet of clementines was £2. Now, if you imagine if every one of them was a flower head, they would probably be 50p to £1 a flower head, whereas these are working out to about 10p. So for your dollop of colour, fruit is quite good value. So it's always worth thinking about. And if I was using this on a table, you know, I'd just have some fruit just sitting around, spilling out apparently. If this was on a reception table or a coffee table or something like that, you know, I like the idea of people, you know, we've had it sometimes at livery banquets where we've had things and people have browsed on part of the design because there have been grapes or nuts and other things. It makes it an interactive experience, which makes it a lot more interesting. And then again in here, I've just used one of the little battery packs so that if this were on a table at night, it just adds that little touch. So this only has, I think, about 10 bulbs, if you like, on it. But if you were walking into the room, it would, oh wow, you know, it just makes it that little final, the little final flourish. So there you can see the effect from the whole thing, and you can also see, if I go like that, you can see the container inside there. So I've done that as a sort of almost a cross section. You can see the plastic container inside there. And it would mean that you could just pour some water in there. That would easily last a month. So it could be there from the start of December right through the Christmas season. Try not to get the cones wet or damp because they'll close up if you do. So you wouldn't mist this, you would only pour some water into the centre of the container there. But a plain bowl like that is the key thing. If you had a larger tank, you could use a washing up bowl or something like that. I mean, as long as it's watertight, it doesn't matter. So you do see these tanks around there. They're not inexpensive, but they're a good investment. Because you could do a summer version of this. And remember the tanks, you could put anything inside them. It could be fruits like cranberries, or it could be chocolate coins, or it could be mixed nuts, or pine foliage, or, you know, and it's reinventing the container just by what you're putting inside it. And it looks fun. It's a bit like looking into an aquarium to see these objects behind the glass surface. So a pretty simple idea with lots of possibilities, but looks really original. So
I'm definitely going to do that.
Good.